At the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter was presented with a brand new Spider-Man suit by Tony Stark, and little did this Peter know that he would die in this suit in the Infinity War, and return 5 years later once again in this suit. This Spider-Man suit would be the suit Spider-Man would wear in the biggest story ever. The grand finale of 10 years of cinema. No pressure. This suit was the Iron Spider. But going by some of these concepts, it wasn't always going to be the Iron Spider. It was going to be an upgraded suit for Peter Parker. But it did, of course, go on to become the Iron Spider. So again, no pressure, Ryan Meenading. You just gotta make the most fancy, deluxe-looking Spider-Man costume ever for this. I'm sure you'll do fine. And he did. If you've seen Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Avengers Endgame, what a weird order to put that in, he did absolutely great. But let's take a look at some of his other designs that didn't make it to the screen. So here we see Spider-Man grasping onto the side of a ship. It's a very dynamic picture and Spidey's in a very dynamic pose. But the bit we're really here to talk about is the design, which is very clearly a more traditionally inspired Iron Spider costume. It's not 100% exact though. As we can see, Spider-Man has the golden eyes, but they still have darker frames around them. As well as that, he has the webs around his head section, and some more subtle webs going down his torso. The spider on the front is much more inspired by the MCU spider logo. It's much more angular. As well as that, Spider-Man has a belt now in gold. It's definitely closer to the classic Iron Spider than what we got in the end, but it is still a little bit removed from the classic design. This would definitely be Spidey's most outlandish costume to date in one of these films, and I get the feeling that they wanted Spidey in an outfit that could be kind of definitive, and obviously if you go too far in the direction of classic Iron Spider, you're not gonna have that. And the same is true of this design. I guess I can see why it would be appropriate to draw inspiration from Spider-Man Unlimited for Spidey's very first cosmic adventure on the big screen. And it is very much the previous suit that we looked at, but in a different color scheme, this time in the Unlimited color scheme where it's predominantly blue, but it's got the red spider on the chest. But the thing I find really weird about this is kind of the color balance in that he's got a red head still, even though this costume is predominantly blue. And as my buddy Dom said when I showed him this suit, it looks like the back somehow ended up on the front. Once again, another recolor of that previous suit, this time in red and black. They like their red and black over at Marvel Studios, what can I say? The problem with this one is it doesn't really look like anything. It's just kind of very confusing to look at. There's a lot of red on the top, and very little red on the bottom. Or as my buddy said again, just, you didn't like the previous one, here it is with added black. This one here is very close to the design that we got in the end. It's kind of the exact same layout, but with some color differences. So I'm guessing that this was just an idea for an upgraded suit because it doesn't look metallic in the slightest. Instead, very rubbery. The spider on the chest draws inspiration from Ben Reilly's Spider-Man, however, it doesn't have that boxiness of the Ben Reilly Spider-Man's torso section. The main difference that separates this from your traditional Iron Spider, though, is the complete lack of gold on it. And there is no gold around the spider or anything like that, and that is the main thing that is clearly changed in the final design that is not present here. I get the feeling they maybe presented this design, and then the studio or whatever were just like, yeah, that's great, but can we, like, get some gold on that? And then Ryan Meenading was just like, bruh, of course you can get some gold on it. I am the weaver of dreams, remember? I mean, as far as a standard Spider-Man suit goes, this work actually looks fine. They've actually managed to pull off the big spider. It would be pretty interesting to see this design translated to a fabric suit as opposed to an armored one. But we may never see that. And I guess that's fine. I personally do prefer something more traditional anyway. This is a traditional look as it is, but like what they've delivered us before in Homecoming and then in Far From Home is more traditional. I get the feeling that Ryan Meenading loves his Superior Spider-Man suit. He's delivered us a lot of really cool Superior Spider-Man inspired outfits in his concept art. This one's even a little bit of a hybrid with the Venom symbiote spider on the chest. It feels more appropriate having the symbiote spider applied to this design as opposed to the classic Spider-Man design. I guess it would have been kind of interesting to see this suit be the one that Peter wears to space. I mean, it's a Superior Spider-Man and, you know, it's a superior costume because it's got more functionality. I don't know. There's obviously a little more classic Spidey influence as well with the gloves and the boots and the red belt. I don't love it as much as the previous versions of Superior Spider-Man that Ryan Meenading came up with, but gotta say, It's one of the better looks on this list so far. So this design here is almost exactly like the Iron Spider design that we got. It's got the overall classic Spidey layout, a very Ben Reilly inspired spider on it, it's metallic, and it's got gold around the spider and around the trim of the suit. The difference here is rather than being red and chrome, it is instead red and, well, darker red, which makes it a bit more in line with the classic Iron Spider design from the comic books, but still keeping in with that sort of homecoming spider design to it, the traditional webbing, and the white eyes. So I guess in some ways it's like a hybrid between classic Iron Spider and modern Iron Spider. I think this design looks very unbalanced. I think what would help it a lot would be if the spider on the chest were filled in that very bright gold color, because there is a lot of red on this costume. I have seen fan-edited Spider-Man cosplays of the Iron Spider done in the classic color scheme that definitely work a lot better than this in my opinion. So I am glad they swapped out the red and dark red for red and chrome. And also I am very traditionally inclined when it comes to Spider-Man costumes, and what we got with the red and chrome suit with the slight blue shine to it is more of a classic look for Spider-Man. I feel like this here would have been a crowd pleaser for classic Civil War comic book fans. This is definitely the closest thing we have on this list to classic Iron Spider. It's got the spider pretty much exactly as it appeared in the comic books. It's got the golden eyes, red is the primary color of the costume, and the spider's actually filled in this time, so the color balance looks a lot better. Another thing they've done to kind of remedy the color balance problem of the Iron Spider suit being translated is they've kind of given Spidey a bit of a fingerless glove kind of a look by having gold around the finger sections, as well as some gold trim on the boots. It definitely looks a lot better than the previous design that's on this list, that's for sure. Once again though, they've added some classic Spidey influence in that the red portion of the classic Spider-Man suit is a brighter red than the rest of the red on this costume, and as well as that it does have webbing patterns going throughout the costume, which are a bit closer together than they are on your typical MCU Spider-Man suit. And I do wonder if they would have gone for a metallic look with this costume, because the only metallic looking parts of this concept are the gold parts. I mean, if the brief was adapt Iron Spider and just solely do that, this design definitely would have been a great pick. I do prefer what they went for in the end, because as I say, I am more of a classically inclined Spider-Man fan when it comes to the design work, but I would have happily accepted this. I would have happily accepted, yep, that's the Iron Spider for these Infinity War and Endgame movies. Jesus Christ, that's beautiful. That is a beautiful concept. This one here definitely would have been like an upgraded suit as opposed to like an Iron Spider suit. I mean, if they tried to masquerade this around and tell me that's Iron Spider, no sir, that is not Iron Spider. That right there is John Romita Spider-Man. So what we have here is basically the homecoming Spider-Man suit, except the black sections of the costume have been implemented differently. He no longer has these massive stripes going down the arms, he now instead has stripes sort of where the shoulder cuts off, sort of under the armpit leading to the chest. So it's more like a border for the red sections as opposed to actually going through the red sections. The belt section no longer has the black stripes in it, it instead just has black web cartridges going down it. There's no black stripe on the boot, but what is interesting is once again they've gone for kind of a fingerless glove sort of a look. A look we'd later see adopted onto the Far From Home suit, and I really do like the fingerless glove look. On to the next design, and it's actually even better, because this time it's the exact same design, but in red and black, but now the webbing is less spaced out as well, giving this a very quintessential Ditko Spidey look. I think they definitely set this concept aside when it came to designing the Far From Home suit. You've got the red and black there, you've got the fingerless gloves. One thing I will say is, one thing I do prefer about the red and blue version of this design is that they gave it white eye lenses as opposed to mirrored here. It just pops that little bit more if they're white than it does when they're mirrored. And I definitely prefer what they did with it with the Far From Home suit. It definitely breaks up the red that's on the arms a little bit better accommodates for that fingerless glove sort of a look, and I definitely prefer the texture of the black sections on that suit to this suit here, where it's much more in line with the Iron Spider or Homecoming look. Once again, like the previous design on this list, the spider legs are a little bit extended, which they were on the Far From Home suit when compared to the Homecoming suit, but in the Far From Home suit they definitely gave it that sort of white border around it, and it makes me wonder what the back spider on this suit would have looked like, whether or not it would have been like the Homecoming suit where it's more rounded, or whether it would have been more like the Far From Home suit and Infinity War suit where it was more square. And would it have been white as opposed to red? I think white on red and black Spider-Man suits looks really nice, not so sure on blue suits though. So then we have a recolor of Ryan Meenading's classic Iron Spider design that we had on this list a little earlier. This time, the red of the Spider-Man suit is completely omitted in favor of it being gold and black, which kind of reminds me of the sort of mid to late Marvel Now Iron Man comics where they took all the red off of the costume and replaced it with black. It's not a look I ever liked. It kind of makes everything look a bit more edgy when you do that. My guess is that they kind of wanted to pay some homage to Secret Wars because he's going off to space, he's fighting in a war in outer space and everything. It makes sense for him to get the black suit like he did in the classic Secret Wars comic book. But I think in a crossover of this size, it's important for Spider-Man to have a look that's kind of immediately recognizable, and I don't think he has that if he's not retaining that classic red color scheme. I mean, obviously you can see a lot of classic Spidey detail here. He's got the webs on him and everything, but you kind of have to look to see it and everything. Just Spider-Man minus the red is not great in my opinion. Unless you are actually doing the black suit, but I would say if you're going to do the black suit, do the black suit. Now, okay, admittedly, in Spider-Man Far From Home, they did a black suit that wasn't the black suit, and I liked it, so obviously I'm just contradicting myself a little bit here. The short version is black and gold Spidey is not for me. And that brings us all the way to the current iteration of the Iron Spider suit. And obviously, even with this design here, there are some deviations in the final film that aren't on this design. The blue glowing eyes, the blue glowing clips on the shoulders, the giant gold web shooters. Overall, I think they got it just right. It's kind of that nice little balance between classic Spider-Man and the Iron Spider, but the main distinction in the film is that it's very metallic, very armored looking, and I didn't really think a metallic Spider-Man could work on film, but the way they did it, it still felt slick, it still felt streamlined, which is one of the most important things a Spider-Man costume can be. And I really like that they did, you know, as I say, keep it kind of closer to the classic design, but with Iron Spider elements in there. There has been a lot of debate as to whether it's red and blue and gold, or if it's red and black and gold. Ryan Meaderding does insist that it is red and black and gold. However, if you actually look at the movie a lot, it does really appear that it shows up in blue at times. I think it's kind of a red and a chromy black, which kind of has a blue sort of a tint to it. I don't know how these things get changed. Maybe there was a stage of the film where it was in red and black. Maybe it was originally designed to be red and black. Who knows? Who really knows? But like as it stands, you can see blue hints in there. There's a lot of instances in the film where it does evoke a very classic Spidey sort of look. What do you guys think? What's your favorite design on this list? Comment below and discuss. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below are links to my Discord and my Patreon. Holy heck, did my nose and voice clear up by the end of the video? Channel Pup has been growing more than I could ever have anticipated over this very short space of time, and I'm absolutely honored to see so many viewers participating in discussions and really enjoying my little projects here. But it's not without its obstacles. I'm currently a student studying film and television, and if I want to afford the general costs that come with living, unfortunately YouTube revenue just can't always cut that cheese. I recently moved in with my girlfriend's family, but this is not a permanent thing, it's just for the summer. And last year I've done the whole act of balancing YouTube, balancing a job, and balancing university, and trust me, the content suffers every single time. So to support this channel to maintain the same quality of content and upload schedule, and to just keep making the stuff you guys really seem to be enjoying, I really do urge you to check out my Patreon link in the description below. And in return, you can get early access previews to the special Channel Pup events such as Marvelous Tales of Spider-Man Episode 2, as well as my upcoming Patreon exclusive playlist, Pup's Project Room, which is all unlockable with a pledge of just $1 or more. Now, the world's a tricky place. Not everybody is made of money, and that's fine. Just please be here for my videos. Please don't stop coming back to join me on these discussions, because it means so much to me, guys, really. Well, I guess I best be hitting the old dusty trail. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I've been Channel Pup, and I'll think of a better catchphrase next time. Now please leave me alone!